Buy, don't rent. They say that you should rent the place where you live and find some other investments with a better return. Especially, you can find some properties with a higher rental yield than your home. There are many cases where this is true, and especially if real estate is your business. But maybe it is not the better choice for you. Here are some ideas why you may choose to buy rather than to rent. The main reason why people buy their home is to stop having to pay for housing after retirement. Another part of the equation is that homeowners pay a stable price while monthly rents rise with the inflation of the currency. Owning your home is a more reliable way to achieve these goals, and it also requires much less time and effort than buying a rental property. If you don't buy and you invest your money elsewhere, you will have to achieve a better return in order to reach the same effect for you, because your rental income is taxed, whereas living at home is tax-free. Considering one special property, you get a much steadier yield if you live in it yourself than if you rent it out to someone else. In this way, you avoid vacancy and you have no problem with tenants. You can schedule the repairs when you have the money for it and not when your tenant complains. If you rent, your owners may terminate the contract, for example, if they want to move in themselves. And the opposite, if you buy, you are your own decision maker and you depend much less on other people. They say that your home does not generate any cash flow. This is true, but what they forget to say is the rent you would pay otherwise generates you a negative cash flow, and there are still possibilities to cash out your house after retirement. For example, you can sell it to a life estate investor, and this may also have some positive effects on taxation. When you pay off a mortgage offering enough flexibility, like the possibility to make extra payments, you have a great alternative for your extra savings. It is safer than any other kind of investment. It has a better rate of return than a regular saving account. It is not taxed, and it makes it possible for you to be debt-free faster. And if you need to borrow money to face a difficulty like a medical bill, you can negotiate a much better interest rate if you have bought a house that you can offer as a collateral. This is much harder to negotiate if you invest in paper assets, for instance. Usually, homeowners have a better structured retirement provision. Due to the high leverage at the beginning of the mortgage, their expected return is high at the beginning and low when they get closer to retirement. This is also true for the risk they face in a case of a market downturn. So you take more risk when you are young and you can afford it, and you reduce the risk as you get nearer to retirement. You will probably hear that your portfolio is not well diversified when you buy only one property. This is true, but do you really need diversification? If you live in your own piece of real estate, you save the rental payments. If you don't, you may reduce fluctuations in your investments, but you will still have fluctuations in the payment of your rent. Sometimes, the rent will increase less than the inflation rate, and some other years it will increase more. Is it really better than a fixed monthly mortgage payment? You are afraid of not being able to pay for the mortgage if you lose your job. But are you sure you will still afford paying the rent? When things go bad, people tend to reduce first all other expenses than housing. Moving out because of money problems is psychologically very tough. So, people with financial difficulties usually try all other options before moving out. This is true for owners as well as for tenants. For owners, it may be a bad time to sell if the market is down. But the situation is not really better for tenants, because it is harder for them to find another place to move into. All of this shows that it is not always a mistake to buy rather than to rent. It mainly depends on you and how you feel with it.